I like my chair because it can do this. It kind of reminds me of PewDiePie a year ago or something, or 1.5 years ago, when he always sat in his chair, and then he said, "But can it do this?" No, not today's topic of the video. It's something else. Many people believe that Bosnia doesn't have a coastline, but we do. It's a small piece, it's called Neum, and it's like 15 kilometers long. It's not really that big, but we have a small piece of land that goes to the sea. Croatia doesn't like the fact that all of their, citizens have to cross to this small stretch of Bosnian land to then go to Croatian territory again. Borders, long waiting lines, annoying for tourists, annoying for people who live there. So what they decided to do is, with the funding of European money, that sounds really weird, is build a big bridge across to the island, so you don't have to pass through Bosnian territory again. Or any longer. Because building a massive bridge that costs millions of euros is better, more efficient than just making, a deal with Bosnia-Herzegovina regarding, passing of people through a small stretch of Bosnian territory. With that onto the side, someone made a video, Bosnia on the verge of becoming landlocked. And it's about the construction of this bridge. Let's take a look onto this video and see what it is about and what really the problem is here and what the person who made the video is trying to say with this video. So let's take a look.
A small strip of land gives Bosnia-Herzegovina access to the Adriatic Sea.
Yes.
Now that coastline is on the verge of an effective blockade. Neighboring Croatia is constructing a massive bridge to join its mainland with its southern territory.
Why is it a problem that they're building the bridge? Becoming landlocked. Okay.
Project, dubbed as the Pelješac Bridge, is a prerequisite
Pelješki most. That's what he's trying to say.
for Croatia to enter the borderless Schengen area. In doing so, however, the Croatian project risks undermining Bosnia's tiny coastline. Meanwhile, the European
Undermining our coast? What? People can still just pass the bridge and go to Bosnia to Neum. It's not like there's gonna be a wall like Trump constructs across with it.
Union is less methodical about it. Brussels is eager to seal the deal and has provided funding for the Croatian bridge. But just as things couldn't get any more obscure, the tender was commissioned to a Chinese state-owned company. Backdoor deals are usually made in poorly lit rooms, and the Pelješac project is one that could effectively blockade Bosnia's access to the sea.
Bridge is not gonna block us from accessing the sea, bro. It's just gonna cross to another island which connects, to another piece of Croatian land which connects to the mainland. So you just bypass Bosnian territory, but it's not that nobody can reach Neum anymore. It's still really easy to go there. I don't think this guy really gets or understands the project.
With some politicians saying that the country is on the verge of becoming landlocked. I'm your host Shirvan and welcome to Caspian Report. With its rugged mountains and lush valleys dotted with charming towns, the Balkan Peninsula has seen all sorts of empires come and go. The ethno-religious diversity characterizing the region has often led to violence, conflict, and disagreements. In the Western Balkans, the collapse of Yugoslavia was followed by severe hostility among Bosniaks, Serbs, and Croats. That conflict ended only after NATO intervention. In 1995, the Dayton Accords put an end to the violence, but it resulted in a complex political arrangement. Croatia inherited the archipelago along the eastern coast of the Adriatic Sea, a place dotted with small islands, shores, towns, etc., making Croatia a hotspot for tourism. However, its Dubrovnik region in the south was separated from the mainland to the north. Cutting in between was the coastline of Bosnia-Herzegovina. The small strip of land known as the Neum Corridor gave Sarajevo access to the Adriatic Sea. Now, most people assume that the corridor is a modern byproduct of the Yugoslav wars, but this isn't so.
Nope, this is a historical part of Bosnia-Herzegovina.
The formation of the Neum corridor goes back to the 17th century. At the time, the Ottomans were at conflict with the Venetians, and the Principality of Ragusa, which is the historical name of the Dubrovnik region, voluntarily ceded strips of land to its north to the Ottomans. The intent was to create a buffer between Venetia and Ragusa. Later, as the Ottomans retreated from the Balkans, the Neum corridor was passed down to the Austrian Empire and then to Yugoslavia. Though none of these historical entities exist today, their political conspiracies still demarcate the Neum shoreline. When Yugoslavia collapsed in the 1990s, the coastline became part of Bosnia-Herzegovina, bringing us to the current state of affairs. For Bosnia, the Neum corridor is a strategic asset. Though its length is only 20 kilometers, Neum allows Bosnia to strike deals that it could not otherwise. It granted Sarajevo geopolitical flexibility, a rare commodity in the Balkans.
Yes, and also, you could construct a port there, you can do business with it, you have tourism there, so even though it's 15 kilometers long, you can still do a lot with a stretch of 15 kilometers of coastline.
Currently, Neum is only a small town of roughly 5,000 inhabitants. Its small fishing port is not suitable for bulk cargo, which is why Bosnia uses the Croatian seaport of Ploče as its main anchorage for exports and imports. That said, Bosnian policymakers have long-term plans to expand the port in Neum into a fully operational seaport capable of handling millions of tons of bulk cargo. Doing so would grant Bosnia a greater say in its foreign policy. It would no longer depend on Croatian ports for its maritime access.
True. I really like the idea. Of course, you have to take into account that it's also a touristic place, so you better place the ports for commercial use away from the ones of touristic use, because otherwise one business will interfere with the other, and it would be very sad if there would be no tourism anymore there, but only ports for commercial use.
For Croatia, the story is different. Neum is seen as a barrier to commerce, tourism, and transportation. Passing through the corridor is not easy. Travelers must first exit Croatia, then enter and exit Bosnia before re-entering Croatia.
Yeah.
There are 4 border checkpoints in a space of 20 kilometers. Under normal circumstances, the highway going through Neum would take no more than 15 minutes to traverse, and before Croatia joined the European Union, the border checks were more relaxed. With the involvement of Brussels, however, checkpoint regulations have become more strict.
Exactly. So whose problem is it really? You get the point? The Bosnians don't really care. We can make a deal with you. We don't really mind. You can pass through. But the fact that the European Union is so much more strict, yeah, that's a different point. And since we're not in the European Union, Croatia should actually, make it a point and basically say, yo, guys, instead of building a bridge worth millions of euros, why don't we just talk to the Bosnians? Not like we're monsters or something.
Traffic is particularly congested during the high season when thousands of tourists headed for Dubrovnik spend hours queuing between the Croatian-Bosnian border checks. So while the Neum corridor holds geopolitical and geoeconomic potential for Bosnia, it has been a source of commercial agony for Croatia. As a result, Zagreb has sought for ways to physically combine its territory and avoid the Bosnian corridor. A breakthrough was made in 1998 when Croatia and Bosnia-Herzegovina agreed to a maritime border. The pact, known as the Neum Agreement, was to grant free passages to Croatian transit traffic between its separated territories through Bosnian territory.
Exactly.
By 2012, the deal had been fully augmented and its provisions covered a range of topics including license plates, documents, accidents, etc. But right around the time, 2 things happened that changed the terms and conditions and left the Neum Agreement on ice. First, Croatia joined the European Union.
Yeah, that's the first big point. As you mentioned earlier, the European Union has a high standard when it comes to border checkpoints and borders. So, Croatia's kind of forced to take those actions.
What was earlier a bilateral agreement became subject to multilateral discussion bearing the obligations of the Schengen area in mind.
Yep.
Second, while the negotiations were ongoing, Zagreb decided to go ahead regardless and drafted a blueprint to connect its territory. That draft was the Pelješac project, a massive bridge with a length of 2.4 kilometers and a height of 55 meters. It was a landmark infrastructure plan. Upon completion, it would rank as the second longest bridge in Europe. The Pelješac bridge would bring territorial cohesion to Croatia and make the country eligible to join the Schengen area. At the same time, it would improve the flow of goods and people and strengthen the overall economic conditions. Even though the Neom agreement was never ratified, Croatia gave the Pelješac project the go-ahead in 2007. Then, just as construction was to commence, the financial crisis hit. Much like the rest of Eastern Europe, Croatia was hurt badly. Construction on the Pelješac bridge froze, and the situation remained as such for the next decade. In 2017, with the...
Imagine having millions, starting a project, just freezing it, and everything is built already there. Much of it has to be replaced or redone because of weather conditions. It deteriorates, of course, if it's not being maintained. And since there's no money, it's not.
the aid of the European Union, the plan was revived. Croatia obtained about 85% of the funding for the Pelješac project from the EU, and the much-delayed bridge was back on track. The government in Sarajevo, however, was less cheerful. Bosnian lawmakers opposed the project, claiming that Croatia will inadvertently blockade Bosnia's access to the sea, thereby discouraging trade, commerce, and investments in the vicinity of Neom.
Bosnian lawmakers, what the fuck? Even if it's true, I don't know if it's true. Even if it is, the people who sat there are fucking retarded, because we still have access to the sea. They're basically just bypassing the border control. That's it.
Whether this is true is unknown. No studies have been conducted on this issue, but it stands to reason that Bosnia's connection to the sea will diminish while its expansion plans for Neom seaport will crumble. When the Pelješac bridge is complete, the flow of goods and people is likely to alternate, perhaps not all of it, but certainly enough to make a lasting impression.
I don't know if it's this dude or the people who actually made this shit up and put it on the internet. That bridge is not stopping Bosnia from constructing a port. The ships can travel under the bridge and still get to the port, and it still would benefit Bosnia-Herzegovina. So
it follows that Bosnian policymakers are upset with the Croatian bridge and consider it an assault on the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Bosnia-Herzegovina.
I watch Bosnia Balkan news all the time. I haven't heard this. What the actual fuck? And even if we said it, politicians in Bosnia are fucking retarded. This is an attack on the Bosnian. Like, fuck off, man. Shut up. They're working on their own country. Who gives a fuck? We weren't assholes in the European Union. We weren't assholes, and the Croatians weren't assholes all together. You just could have talked and just revived the plan where, you know, traffic can go through Neom, and that's it. Instead of talking to each other, building a bridge worth millions of euros. What the fuck, people? Where is this world going to?
Sarajevo says that it has the right to file a lawsuit against Croatia at the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. Zagreb, meanwhile, argues that the Pelješac bridge does not violate international law and that the construction applies the highest professional criteria.
Yeah, it does, because Croatia is first in the European Union. Secondly, the European Union funded this shit. So even if they take it to The Hague or to the International Tribunal, it's shit. Oh my god. Sometimes, not sometimes, all of the time, I hear people, Bosnian politicians, blabber bullshit. Literally, all the time. I haven't heard a fucking single politician in Bosnia-Herzegovina say something useful in the last 20 years.
More specifically, the Croatians claim that the bridge's 55-meter height is sufficient to allow safe passage into Neom.
Yeah, it is. Holy fuck, 55 meters high, bro.
The Law of the Sea Convention is somewhat ambiguous on the issue. While certain provisions call for archipelago states to designate sea lanes for the safe passage of ships, the criteria is ambiguous. As a rule of thumb, the dimensions of the Golden Gate Bridge, whose clearance above high water averages 67 meters, is usually applied when it comes to such constructions. The Pelješac Bridge is 12 meters short of that, so the dispute is not so much about the construction as its design. Now, technically, Bosnia could file a lawsuit.
So yeah, if the bridge is too low for big cargo ships to pass through, then I agree, then file a fucking lawsuit because the corridor is getting blocked, or actually all commercial traffic is being blocked, and it would be really a dick move from Croatia to actually do that, just to block off the actual, possibility of Bosnia building a port.
But the trouble is that there is no political unity on the matter, a flaw that is part of the character of Sarajevo. You see, at the federal level, the Bosnian constitution recognizes three constituent.
Yeah, there are Croatians as well in the Bosnian parliament, which of course are gonna vote for the construction of the bridge since they're ethnically Croatian. Of course, here we are again, my old Bosnia, and its fucking political system. You see what a fucked up political system can do and how it can influence this kind of shit and make people mad, because ethnic Croatians living in Bosnia-Herzegovina, so they should be by nationality Bosnian on paper if they're born in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and even though they're ethnically Croatian, they still have their own Croatian president in the parliament, thank you Dayton. So and instead of, making it better for the country that they're living in, they're gonna vote for the country, what they see as their home country, Croatia, their ethnic home country, to help them out and vote for the construction of the bridge. The actual fuck, people. So imagine you're a Turk living in Germany, you have a German passport, and you live in Germany. There's a Turkish proposal which will boost the Turkish economy, but it will lower the economy of Germany. And you as a Turk vote for raising the Turkish economy while you're still living in Germany. And it will negatively affect you. You don't care. It's just because you're a Turk.
Groups: Bosniaks, Serbs, and Croats. All three factions are represented in the country's political structures, and the communities share power through a rotating presidency. Maintaining this arrangement is key to Bosnia's stability. So while Bosniak politicians insist that the Croatian bridge is an attack on state sovereignty, Bosnian Croats, who account for 98% of the population in Neom, do not see anything provocative. At the same time, Bosnian Serbs feel indifferent to the whole dispute. This then explains Bosnia's inert attitude and its inability to mobilize against the Pelješac project. Still interesting, the controversy surrounding the bridge goes beyond Bosnia. Although the European Union finances the project, the construction is being built by the China Road and Bridge Corporation, a Chinese state-owned company. This makes the Pelješac project the first EU-funded venture built by a Chinese company. Brussels picked Beijing because it was cheaper, but China's motive to partake in this infrastructure endeavor relates to the Belt and Road Initiative. In a place as the Balkans, with its crumbling infrastructure, Chinese companies are involved in dozens of ventures, such as motorways in Montenegro, a steel factory in Serbia, and coal power plants in Bosnia-Herzegovina, etc. These projects benefit the local nations, but they also grant China influence vis-à-vis its relationship with the European Union.
Yep, it does. I'm not gonna bother that. Bring in the money. Bring it in. We need money to fix the fucking countries. Problem is, that money is in 90% of the cases ending up in the wrong hands and we're still not moving forward. And that's the part which pisses me off. If there were people there, I would take the money as a president from China as well, invest it and actually build up the country. I don't care if China wants influence in the region, if there's a bigger thing behind it. If that means that every person in that country can have a job, can eat bread, has bread on the table, let's put it that way, and have a decent standard of living, and why the fuck not?
Taken together, there is little Bosnia can do to halt or redesign the Pelješac bridge. The combined interests of the European Union and China outweigh the capacities of Bosnia. Plus, Croatia's needs are just as valid as Bosnia's anxieties, so the situation will likely agitate considering its history. And in the Balkans, that typically leads to trouble, for history always manages to get in the way of progress.
That's very well said. History in the Balkans always gets in the way from progress. I 100% agree. Also have to say, the project, if it's only the height, please, if the height is correct and enough for a commercial ship to pass through, shut the fuck up, Bosnian politicians. If it's too low, yes, agree, file something. And yes, it's hard because actually in our parliament, well, they're not foreign countries, but they're supporting foreign or neighboring countries instead of the country that they're living in, which I still find fully retarded. Oh my god, I just don't have the energy, nor do I have the words to be busy with this political bullcrap in the Balkans. Was it a good video? Yes, it was. What do you think of the Pelješki Most which is being constructed? And, what do you think of this whole conflict in general for a fucking bridge? Please let it know in the comments down below. My name is Dino. I hope you liked the video. If you did, like the video down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I see you guys in the next video. Ciao.
Perfect.